And now, as Missouri looks for final passage in that redistricting bill, we want to take a look at how things have changed following those similar moves we've seen play out in Texas and California. For more on this, let's bring in CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, always love talking to you about these kinds of figures. First, can you walk us through what has changed in these states?
Yeah, and I want to start with this, Nancy, because it's kind of the big picture. In our latest poll, we asked people, what do you think ought to be done about congressional districts? And the bulk of them said, leave things until after the 2030 census. And that leads to a larger point about what's happening here. Typically, we see redistricting, if folks recall, this happens in earnest right after a census year. So yes, 2030, it happened a lot, of course, in all states after 2020. A mid-cycle, mid-census cycle redistricting is uncommon, but states can do it, and that's what you're seeing playing out here. Now, the other part of this, you mentioned this at the top, the proportion of a state's congressional delegation that a party controls or wins relative to, let's just do this as a comparison, relative to its presidential vote, just as a rough proxy for partisanship. So as you noted, 3/4 of Missouri's congressional district is held by Republicans. Donald Trump got 58% of the vote there. And we can do similar things in places like Florida or Texas, which I'll show you more about in a minute, where Republicans hold 2/3 of the congressional districts. Trump got 56% of the vote. And just so this isn't just confined, of course, to Republican-leaning states, here's California, 58% presidential vote, 83% of the congressional districts. How does this come about? Well, partly it's a function of where voters live within the state. Partly it's a function of who gets to draw the maps. And in the case of Texas, you've got the state legislature now looking at newly proposed districts. And what you're going to look at when you first see this map, it's a little hard to tell, partly because these blue spots, these Democratic districts on, let's use the current map here, these are concentrations of Democrats who tend to live more in cities, Republicans in more suburbs and rural areas. But let me just show you a couple of examples here for what's happened, because if I take this and we zoom in on a couple of them, here's the area around San Antonio, areas around Houston. In the proposed map, if you see the difference, if you look closely, what you'll get is a lot of the areas around San Antonio, the suburbs, have been included now in the redrawn districts, which ostensibly would help Republicans. But it really is going to depend on a couple of key factors, which I'm just going to go right in and say has a lot to do with the Hispanic vote. Donald Trump won an increasing number of the Hispanic vote in Texas in 24. He got 55% of it. And it seems like Republicans are really banking on that because there's a lot of Hispanic areas, especially in and around the Rio Grande Valley down here, where some of these new districts are. If Hispanics continue to trend Republican, that could pay off. But it's also a bit of a gamble if they, in fact, do. We'll see what happens next year.
Lots of colors changing. Anthony Salvanto, thank you very much.
Thanks.